this is Dodger, and you're watching my show.
Three, two, one, ready, go.
Now I know what you're thinking. You caught me. There's something different. This is a new necklace. Also, I got an amazing wig in the mail, and I love it, and Sam keeps calling it my mom wig. He was like, why are you wearing that? You look like a mom. But during the stream, it turned into the Donald Trump wig, and then we put it on the cat, and now we have Trump Cat. Except I stole Trump Cat's hair, so now he's just angry cat. Side note, have you ever been in that place where like you're super cold and you have a really hot drink and all you want in the world is to take a sip of that hot drink, but you know if you do, you're definitely gonna burn your entire mouth off? That's what's happening to me right now, and I feel like if I just, hold it, then I'll get a better idea of when it's at a drinkable temperature, and right now it's feeling like maybe that time is never. So if, while we're talking about news, it seems like I hold this a lot but don't ever take a drink of it on camera, I assume that I never did. Assume that I was always just way too chicken to try and drink it. So for our first piece of news, any of you who are excited about the Warcraft movie, we have a new teaser that came out. It's like a minute long, so it's not one of those things where it's like Warcraft, June 10th, the end. I feel like people are starting to warm up to the idea of mixing, the for reals humans and the CGI orcs. I think they're starting to accept that that's what's gonna happen here. I'm seeing way less, oh my god, this looks terrible, and more people admitting like, I think it looks all right. I'm one of those people, right? I'm one of those people where I've seen all of the opening cinematics and I think they're incredible and gorgeous, but I'm not looking at the trailers for this movie, I'm not thinking to myself, oh man, they're totally gonna ruin it, right? I'm not attached to it the way that a lot of people that I know are. So I'm able to watch the trailers and be like, that looks fun. Like, I'll watch that. Like, that looks like it'll be a fun movie. And I just feel so bad for the people who are very strongly part of the Warcraft community who also are like, I think it looks like it could be a good movie, because you can't say that. Oh hell no, you can't tell anybody that. You can't go to your friends and be like, I think this movie looks like it might be good, because you will die on the spot. Obviously, if they could have made the entire thing CGI and made it look like all of their opening cinematics, that would have been amazing. Obviously, when I look at the trailers for this movie, I think to myself, man, those shoulder bits, all that armor, not nearly big enough. IMO. So if you'd like to see that trailer, I will link you in the description and you can go and check it out for yourself. But I'm gonna assume, future me who's editing this, I'm going to assume that I showed you a decent amount of that trailer, while I was off to the side and we had like stuff going on over here. I'm gonna assume that you basically saw the whole thing over here, but hey, maybe you want to see it again and you just don't want to see like me along with it. You just want to like let yourself sink into the moment. I get it. Sony announced that the PlayStation VR is going to be releasing for 400 buckaroonies. That does not include the camera and it does not include Move controllers, both of which you basically need in order to use the VR, but people were still like, oh, well, in the end it's still gonna be way cheaper than everything else. So a lot of people have said, well, I don't understand why they said $400 when obviously it's like $400 and then you have all these other peripherals and things that you're gonna need to buy. Like, why not just package them all together and say what all of it is going to cost? And honestly, I think it's because it's so heavily joined with a console. You cannot put out a system for a console and say that it's more expensive than the console itself, right? Like, that does not look good. So rather than saying that, they're like, oh, but the VR headset is $400. And for anybody who did want a bundle to just like exist in the world, there is one. It is $500 for the VR headset, 2 Move controllers. I know Move controllers still exist. They're still a thing. They're a thing that is still, happening in the world. And the camera. You will also get PlayStation VR Worlds, which is a game it's sort of like Nintendo Land, right? It's just a bunch of PlayStation VR games, like mini games that are all gonna be packaged together. So that'll also come with the bundle. Really, the bundle is looking like it's the best way to do it, to make sure you have everything that you need, as well as like games to actually play with it, which is important. They are going to be doing pre-orders for that, so if you're interested, March 22nd at 10 a.m. Eastern apparently is when pre-orders are going to open up, so very exciting. I feel like people in general are starting to get a little bit of VR fatigue, right? They're not even out yet. There's no consumer versions of anything out yet when it comes to the Vive or the Oculus or the PlayStation VR, right? Like, we don't have any of that stuff. And no matter how much people go to demos and come out and write articles and say, oh man, this one was really good, or this one like really captured my imagination, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, most people are gonna look at those price points and say, well, but it's like a gimmick, right? Like, how far can this actually take me? So I am really interested to see how they wind up doing once people are more used to the idea of VR. And what's gonna happen at that point, right? Like, once everybody's like, oh yeah, VR headsets, whatever, then you're gonna be left with the substance of the games. You're gonna be left with, okay, well, are these games fun to play? Like, sure, I put on the headset and I feel like I'm in a car, but is like the car game fun? You know, because there's only a certain amount of time that the idea of virtual reality, like I'm in the game, is going to be interesting. You can't just ride it on that. So all of these different systems, all of these different companies are going to suddenly have to figure out, okay, how do we make games that people are actually so invested in that they are consistently using VR instead of just using it once, which is what happened with basically all of the current gen consoles. So look, I understand when people are super skeptical right now because they don't feel like the systems right now are being supported. So is VR going to see the support? I certainly hope so, right? But again, we won't know until they're out, and until we are experiencing it, and until I'm one of those people who, you know, puts on one of those headsets and comes to you guys and says, it's alright. And then you make that decision for yourselves, man. So there are lots of Mario Maker levels that are just vanishing. They're just disappearing. Your sweet baby brother, he spends hours making his very first Mario Maker level, and then it disappears. And he's heartbroken. And what do you tell him? You don't know what to tell him because Nintendo won't tell us anything. This has become a trend that I'm not super excited about, by the way. like things being taken down and companies refusing to explain to us why. And especially in a situation like Mario Maker, right, where the entire point of that game is so that you can share your creations with everybody else. If you share a creation and then your creation is just wiped off the planet, and when you go to the company they say, oh, that's too bad, I don't know what happened, I guess remake it. In their FAQ or like guidelines or whatever, it is stated that they would be periodically taking down levels that nobody's really playing because they don't want to have like just this sea of, you know, levels that aren't super fun to play, and then it makes it really hard for people to find the ones that are very fun to play. And a lot of games typically get around that by having a, you know, a curation system that's us. That we, the consumer, are the curation system, right? Like, we play a game and then we can be like, oh, this wasn't really very good, or oh, this was fantastic, that sort of a thing. So people are getting very confused. Like, they'll make a level, and then not too long after that, like, it seems as though they're not getting enough time to even know whether or not their level does well, and then it disappears and Nintendo can't explain it. They're like, well, I mean, just remake it. Like, I don't see what the big deal is. And what makes this really upsetting is that your level that you've made, it still exists on your game, right? Like, you can play it, but you can never re-upload that same level that you made. So if you upload a level and you're like, oh, I know a way to make this way better, you can't take it down and then change it and then re-upload it. You have to start from scratch, which seems like such a huge design flaw. So now specifically, like, the reason that this has popped up a lot is because there are, again, like in my example, there are all of these little kids all over the place. Like really young kids who are making levels, and then their levels disappear. And they're like, I don't know what I did wrong. Like, I don't understand. And no one is able to tell them what they did wrong. And so suddenly all of this work that they put into this thing, that they put so much like care and sweet love into it, they are basically just told, well, that sucks. Guess start over. Hopefully, if it is a bug, it's something that Nintendo can fix. And if it's not a bug, and Nintendo is taking things down for a reason, I would think that they could, like, take a second to be like, this is why your level got taken down, right? And if pretty much all of these are just your level wasn't popular enough, it was up for like X amount of time and we dubbed it wanting, then you would get some kind of an automated message that told you that, rather than having it just dropped on you, like you go to see how your level's doing and it's gone. That's so sucky. I can't remember the last time I used the word sucky. I stand by it. It's sucky, Nintendo. So suck it. Oh! What have I done? Ooh. I made a weird coffee. Guys, I made a really weird coffee! If you're a big fan of Bethesda, you will be delighted to find out that they have announced they have 3 new big and crazy projects in the works. This news story isn't going to be super exciting because we have no idea what it is. All that they've said is like, we're trying to do something completely different. So we have 3 new big projects that we're working on that are totally different from anything we've ever done before. And we're really excited about it, so keep your ears peeled. And understandably, the people who felt like Fallout 4 wasn't everything it was promised to be are going, great, awesome. Glad that Fallout 4 is probably just gonna like get left off to the side for all these other projects now. But the director of Fallout 4, Todd Howard, he was saying that they are working overtime on DLC and on survival mode. Like, anybody who's concerned that their attention is going to be drawn elsewhere needs to chill. Needs to chill a little bit, because they are fully dedicated to Fallout 4 as far as that team goes, right? Like, the Fallout 4 team is still the Fallout 4 team. And beyond that, yeah, we're just saying, look, everybody here working super, super hard on whatever they're doing. Whatever that is behind closed doors. So I guess we'll hear more information sometime in the future. I don't know why they would announce this in such a vague way if they had no plans to follow up on that within a reasonable time frame, right? With more information, because otherwise an announcement like that is pointless. So yeah, keep your ears peeled, which I say often and makes no sense. Do you guys know who Rion Yuzuki is? She is super, super awesome. She's part of the Takarazuka Review, which is a group that has done, like, they did the Ace Attorney musical and stuff like that. She almost always portrays men. She's going to be part of a Resident Evil musical, where, again, she's going to portray a man. Hiroyuki Kobayashi is going to be overseeing the entire thing and making sure that, you know, it's exactly what Capcom wants. Yeah, this is like a fully sanctioned thing. It's being put on by a company called G2, who I guess just did like an all-Japanese version of My Fair Lady, and I guess nobody had done that before. So they're like a fully established, really good theater company. So for them to take on a Resident Evil musical is pretty cool. It will be in Tokyo from September to October, and in November it will be in Osaka. So if any of you are going to be in Japan and want to see a dope musical, then you should check it out, because she's so cool. And as a final bit of news, something that we can discuss a bit more in depth, Twitch has announced that they want to start bringing in developers to develop games specifically for Twitch. So what this means is, like, they want developers who are interested in making games that have a lot of interaction between a player and a chat somehow, right? And we've seen elements of this idea with, like, Twitch Plays Pokemon and all kinds of stuff like that. But they're trying to put together almost like a think tank situation where people can really just focus on one idea. Like, how do we build from this idea of a player and a chat room? And how do we get those things to interact? The idea is interesting, for sure, and I understand why they're doing it, because it's very good for them. But is it good for the developers? So here's the thing that I cannot wrap my mind around, right? Here's the thing that I cannot figure out. So if you're creating a game where you're saying, all right, a lot of the joy of this game is going to come from you, the player, streaming, and then your chat interacting with that stream through the chat room, right? So what is the incentive for more than one person to buy this game? Like, me, right? Like, I'm the streamer. I will buy the game, And then my chat will, I assume, be integrated, will be somehow digitally attached to that game. And so my chat will affect the game, right? But nobody in the chat has to buy the game, right? So how are the people who are developing for this going to make any money? Like, how is this a good plan for them in terms of making money? Also, Twitch seemed really excited by the idea of sort of pitting people's communities against each other, which I'm not super into, I gotta be honest. Like, I would hate it if these games that are being developed were coming from a place of, how do we market the popularity contest? Like, that would just, I don't think that that would be beneficial in the long run at all. If you were to develop a game for Twitch between the streamer and the chat and the community, right? I would think that it would be much better in the long run for Twitch, for the streamer, for the chat and the community. It would be much more beneficial if the game was developed from a place of, how do we create a closer knit community? How do we make it so that the community is really, really excited to be involved in a positive way? And if you can't figure that out, if the basis of all of this is going to be competition, that would bother me, I think. And again, I don't know how any developer would make money off of this. Like, sure, you got, the streamers would buy the game, but anybody who isn't a streamer would have no incentive. So would the game wind up being a bit sparse, right? Like, would the idea of it have to be fairly simple in order for you to make your money back on it? I don't know. Maybe they would have a plan for that. Maybe Twitch, since Twitch is planning on bringing the devs in and knows that they are the ones who are going to be really reaping the benefits of it, maybe they would try to make up the cost. You know, like, any money that was made from playing that game, like, they get a certain cut of the ad revenue or something like that. That would make a little bit more sense to me. So in the end, look, I'm excited to see what sort of a thing they can come up with, because obviously I'm running into a wall, but I am not a game developer. I don't have that game development creativity. I don't know how to make a thing, right? So maybe they will come up with something that really blows us all away. It makes us go, wow, that's so creative, that's so fun. I can't wait to stream. I can't wait to have my chat and my community involved while I'm streaming this game. I would love to see them come up with something that gave me that feeling. But right now, the sort of examples they've given are a little bit like, I mean, okay, but what else? Anywho, that's been my show. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a positive or a negative response, feel free to leave it in my comment section. And if you would like to join me on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/dexteritybonus, every Saturday I do a show called Saturday Morning Dooger. It's like an hour-long coffee time. I also have been streaming like at least 3 times a week, so I would love it if you would come and check that out. And otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic beginning of your week and a fantastic rest of your day, and I will talk to you again next week. All right, bye-bye. Mwah. I think it looks all right.